Welcome to the mom room. I didn't mean to do that. It's just I paused because I wasn't sure if it was actually recording yet. And so I don't know why I did that. I apologize. Anyways, welcome. Today my plan was to talk about hormones and my journey with hormones. I know if you're watching on YouTube, the background looks different. I'm trying to get this frickin' studio done. Like, I want my lights mounted. I want cameras. It's taking forever. Okay. So one of my goals in the next week or so is to get my buns in gear and just finish the decorations, get a new rug, even though you can't see the rug on camera. It does not match this wallpaper or the wall. Just kind of get it set up so that I can start regularly recording with a background that looks the exact same every single week. Have a guest come on and record in the studio. God, I feel like Taylor Swift. I was just going to say, it's been a long time coming, but it's you and me. That's my home ground. Anyways, speaking of Taylor Swift, I just want to say, since I became a Swiftie and I went to the Eras Tour twice, and now her music is all I listen to besides podcasts. When I'm reading my book or just living life, I could be watching a TV show. I was just watching Parenthood and he said a Taylor Swift lyric. Obviously, it's a saying in the English language, first and foremost, but when you hear things or you see words, I immediately think about a Taylor Swift song. I cannot read the word enchanted. No. All is well that ends well. All these things that people say on TV or in a book, I'm and it distracts me. So anyways, I don't know what that says about me. That's for the ADHD episode. So yeah, today is about hormones, my hatred of them. They honestly, if you type in, I started to learn this when I was pregnant. If you type in any symptom when you're pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant or whatever, postpartum, literally as you're typing it into the Google bar, the options that come up, the drop down menu of the most searched topics based on what you're starting to type in, everything leads to hormones. Every single issue that you have is hormones. And you're really? Hormones, especially for women, I'm talking about women. This is the mom room. Especially when you're going through pregnancy, you give birth, postpartum. As you're getting older, I'm almost 40 now, everything is hormones. And then I thought to myself, that's nice. Women have such major ups and downs when it comes to hormones throughout their entire life. Getting your period, then trying to conceive, your baby bearing years, and then, perimenopause, menopause. Our hormones are all over the place. Do we learn about hormones as children or in high school or at any point in time? No. Do our physicians talk to us about hormones and how a lot of our symptoms could be related to hormones? No. You literally have to advocate for yourself when it comes to hormonal symptoms. And to be honest, if I didn't consume content that was health related, I didn't follow certain accounts that talk a lot about hormones and symptoms of hormones and stuff, I wouldn't necessarily know that a lot of the issues that I was experiencing are hormones and that I actually have to balance my hormones for those things to go away. I think what happens is a lot of people, especially when you're entering perimenopause and menopause, physicians are not even really trained in this area. So if you just go in complaining about your symptoms, they're going to be oh, okay, here's some sleeping pills. And it's just frustrating because we're not being taken seriously, especially if you're oh, I would like to get my hormones tested or, anyways, it's a whole thing. And I get it. The medical system is not about prevention or that kind of stuff. It's you come in with a problem and we're going to fix it as best we know how. But I feel who was I just talking to? And they were talking about how there's going to be a medicine 3.0 or something where it's integrating holistic health, prevention, as well as like traditional medicine. Anyways, I was like, that is a fabulous idea because things need to change. And I could go on this rant forever, and I love having conversations about this topic with like physicians and with experts in different areas. But anyways, a lot of it is advocating for yourself and literally doing the research on yourself to figure out what the hell is going on. So I will say I have never really had hormone issues my entire life because when I was 16, I started the birth control pill. I was on Marvelon. It still exists. And I was on Marvelon literally until Pri and I were like, okay, maybe we should try and have a baby. Then I got off of the birth control pill. I didn't really have any issues like going off of the pill. I don't know, like I never really had hormonal issues until the last few years. And I just started experiencing symptoms like not getting a good sleep, waking up in the middle of the night, really like moody and irritable to the point where it was not normal. And it makes me so sad because I think about back in the day. Honestly, like this is where my mind goes when I think about hormones and women and stuff. We have literally, and you might be like, oh my God, you're so dramatic, because I'm going to use the word suffering. Like for decades and generations, women have likely been suffering through menopause, perimenopause, postpartum issues. Like we are just now, it's 2025. And the conversation is more open to things like postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression. It's more of like an understood thing. Postpartum, psychosis. Like your hormones are just all over the place. And I feel like generations ago, women would start to experience these symptoms like extreme irritability, depression, like moodiness, and they were just kind of written off as being like, oh, like a crazy lady. And I know that's not a proper word to use, but back then that's literally probably what they said. And they just kind of like shooed them to the side. Like, I don't know what to do with you. And I think about like when people used to think women were witches, like the Salem witch trials. Guys, I'm not even kidding. Like this is what I think about. Like, no wonder you can't sleep, Renee. Like you're thinking about freaking Salem witch trials being related to these women weren't witches. They probably just had hormone issues. God. Anyways, so my symptoms that I started to notice was really irritable, moody, to the point where like, you know, on a good day, you can stub your toe and just kind of move on and be like, that hurt, and like move on. Whereas like if it's the week before my period and I'm super irritable and I stub my toe, it's not okay. Like I will punch a hole in the wall. Okay. So you start to pick up on things like that. Like, oh wow, like I'm reacting to things not how I usually would. The sleep issues, and I started to experience these things, and obviously I thought like, okay, the week before my period, it was kind of noticeable. Obviously that's related to my hormones and my cycle. But when it comes to sleep, I never really clued in that would be related to hormones until I saw a naturopath, and she was like, keep track of when you're having these sleep issues, because she asked me, is it every night? And I was like, no, it's literally like a few days or like 5 days out of a month, let's say. Like just randomly, I won't sleep for like a period of time. And it was like debilitating. I remember one night my husband coming into my room, and because I was texting him, he was downstairs watching TV, and I was like, I can't fall asleep. Like, I don't know what is wrong with me. And he came up and I just started crying. Like I was so tired, but could not sleep for the life of me. So anyways, she was like, pay attention to when this happens. So I started to pay attention, and sure enough, it was the week before my period. And she was like, it's like likely due to hormones. So then I started to investigate and look into all kinds of things. Like my digestion and constipation has been way worse than it ever has been. Okay, hormones. Nowadays, it's not so much like I can usually fall asleep, but I wake up in the middle of the night and I cannot fall back asleep. That is like a cortisol spike in the middle of the night. That is hormones. And so a while back, I tried to make all these changes to my daily routine to kind of balance hormones. This was before I started on the birth control pill. And it was great. Like a lot of the things obviously helped so much. You really want to focus on like keeping blood sugar stable throughout the day. And I'm the worst. Like I get up and all I want is coffee. Like I go to bed looking forward to my alarm going off so I can go have my morning coffee. It's just like ingrained in my life. It's my family growing up. Like that's what my parents did. Like it's just so hard to not do that. But anyways, I made that change. I was making these really high protein yogurt bowls the night before. I would get up. I would have, what was it? Like lemon, turmeric, some like really like anti-inflammatory drink. I would have that when I got up with my yogurt bowl and wait like an hour or so before I had coffee. I was doing that regularly. It was fine. It just like wasn't my go-to, like, just wasn't the best. And drinking more water, I was doing like the cold shower thing at the end of every normal shower that I would have. I would put it to super cold, and you want the cold water to hit the back of your neck where that nerve is. That's supposed to help with like cortisol. And anyways, I was doing all these things, and eventually I just started to, first of all, I was extremely constipated. I think the super focus of increasing my protein and having the big yogurt bowls, like naturally me trying to get the protein that I was supposed to get, I was eating more dairy, more meat products. And so my constipation was just like so bad. And you start to, or at least I do, I don't want to generalize everybody in this statement, but it was literally becoming a part-time job just to try and follow all these things. And I know the idea is that you start to do these things and then they just become habitual and your daily routine. But I really struggle with meal prep and dinners and making food. I don't know why it's such a block for me, but it is. The Chat GPT thing really helped the other week. It told me exactly what to buy. I have a reel on it if you want to go check that out. It's basically like telling Chat GPT what your budget is, and let's say you want high protein meals, snacks, breakfast, whatever. It'll spit you out a grocery list with meal and snack ideas that are high protein, low carb, like whatever you want it to be. And I was like, that's amazing. Like that could really be a tool that I use to help ensure that I'm getting enough protein and that I have ideas, so I'm not just like flailing in the wind every day, that I have ideas, and that on Sunday I have gone to the grocery store to get the items for those ideas. Because it's one thing to like go on Pinterest one day and be like, what should we have for dinner tonight? Get an idea. But now it's like you have to follow through now with going to the grocery store, getting the groceries, prepping the stuff, like putting it away. It's just like a whole thing. I really suck at that part of it. But again, all of these things just started to feel too much. It was like certain stretches and like meditation and journaling and the cold showers and exercising and the meal plans and the getting the protein and counting out your protein. And it was just too much for me. And I started to get frustrated because I always have this mentality of like all or nothing. So it's like, if I can't do all of this stuff perfectly, then I'm just not going to do it. And I hate that about myself. Like I need to just keep all these things in mind. And when you do them, you do them. But it's hard because it's not like you have a headache, you take a Tylenol, your pain is gone. So you're like, oh, that worked. That made me feel better. It's like these things you're supposed to adopt into your day-to-day routine and then see progress and see benefits and that you feel better, but it takes forever. So it's not this like linear, like I did this and this is the outcome. It's like you can do these things for weeks, but if you're not doing them every day, does that negate the positive effects of doing that thing? And so I just get frustrated. And it's easy to give up because if you haven't seen really significant progress and you're like killing yourself trying to do all of these things every single day, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? So anyways, it got to a point where because some of my symptoms more recently in the last few years were like raging periods to the point where like ultra tampons were just not doing it. I had to wear period underwear, an ultra tampon, if it was the first day of my period or second day. and I was out shopping or something, like, good luck. Again, I'm generalizing. I was in a bathroom every 45 minutes. It was terrible. Always bleeding through, like, brutal. So there was that. And then there was the really, really bad cramping, which again, I could alleviate with like Motrin, Tylenol, whatever. But then it was like, what is my life right now? I have the week before my period where I'm not sleeping. I'm irritable AF. I'm sluggish, like no motivation, lethargic, fatigued, like just not feeling like I want to do anything. Then the week of my period, I'm like bleeding all over the place, crampy, bloated. Like, what am I doing? Like, that's 2 weeks out of every month where I'm like, this is terrible. So I went to my doctor. I got an appointment with an OBGYN, and she was like, I had already tried. This is so funny. You guys probably already know this, but before I went to the Eras tour in Germany, I mapped out when I was going to get my period, and it was the day that we were landing in Germany to go see Taylor Swift. And I was like, no, I am not traveling to Europe to go see Taylor Swift and bleeding the whole time and going to the bathroom every 45 minutes. No, thank you. So I literally told my doctor, I was like, I'm going to the Eras tour. Like, I can't have my period on the Eras tour. Can I go back on birth control? And she was like, sure, like, no problem. Like, you're not at high risk for XYZ, like things that can be side effects of taking the birth control pill. So let's try it out. So I was like, okay, I'll just go back on Marvelon, which is what I was on like my whole life. So started taking that. Life-changing, because you're basically balancing your hormones with the birth control pill. And I understand, like, you're putting hormones in your body. I get it. But you know what? Until I understand why that is such a terrible thing, it's like people do the hormone replacement therapy, and we're learning so much more about that. If you follow Dr. Mary Haver-Claire, she has amazing information on that. She's an OBGYN. And so because I had the heavy periods and everything, my doctor's like, why don't I refer you to an OBGYN so that we can just at least get that checked out with an ultrasound and whatnot. So I'm like, perfect, let's do that. I also wanted to ask the OB about the difference between birth control and hormone replacement therapy. Like, is one better than the other? So I went to that appointment. It was super eye-opening. I explained everything to her, like, this is what I've tried. These are all my symptoms. And she was basically like, you know what? Like, so many people try and manage all these things naturally, holistically, like I was trying to do. And she was like, I have to say, as you get closer to 40 years old, your periods are just terrible. Like, they are terrible. And as women, like in history, women have never had this many periods. And it's actually not beneficial. It's not healthy, quote unquote. Like, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but to have this many periods in a lifetime. She was like, in history, typically women start having kids really, really young. So like, you start your period at whatever age, and then you start having kids when you're like 18. And people used to just continually have kids. So you're constantly pregnant, breastfeeding. So you're not having your period for like years. And then our lifespan was just so short. Like, we've never seen a generation of women where we're not having kids until we're like late 20s, sometimes is. And then we are functioning adults in society, like working jobs, like big time corporate, like career, whatever, teaching, like whatever it might be, for years until retirement age, and then also living a full life after you retire. She's like, that's kind of unheard of. And so, yeah, as you get older, your periods are terrible. And she basically said, in my case, I'm 39, will be 40 soon, that if the birth control pill is working amazing for me and I have no issues, to just stay on that for the next like 5 years or so, and then we can revisit and discuss hormone replacement therapy. Yeah, like it's just an interesting situation. And I know the whole movement is to like do everything naturally, and that's great. Like, if you're at a place in your life where you can do all those things to the point where it's making a huge difference in your symptoms that you're experiencing, fabulous. Like, I love this. For me, it's just like not in the cards right now. Like, I'm too busy. I prioritize things other than all of that stuff. And I am honest with myself. Like, if I could take a pill before bed every single night, that literally makes my life, my quality of life, month to month, 1,000% better. You bet your ass I'm going to take that pill. And that's kind of what birth control is for me right now. Now, I did go do the ultrasounds, and the first ultrasound that they do just over your skin on your belly, they found a polyp in my uterus. And because remember, they wanted to do the ultrasounds just to make sure that there was nothing causing like the excess bleeding and cramping and stuff. So, and that's another reason why I'm so thankful that I went to my doctor, because I was having all these crazy symptoms and then trying to deal with it naturally, not thinking like there could actually be something wrong, you know? And so it is kind of like, who knows? Like, hopefully that polyp, I haven't had it removed yet, is benign, but God forbid it's not. Like, thank God I went to the doctor to get it investigated. Do you know what I'm saying? These symptoms. So anywho, my OB called me and she was like, we found a polyp. Now, when you do the ultrasound over the skin like that, it's hard to tell the exact size of the polyp. So what we can do, she's like, it looks small, but you have the option to do an internal ultrasound where I actually go into the uterus with like a scope. They like spray water, like do something and take pictures of it so that it's a more accurate size, like so they can see how big it is. Because if it's under a certain size, they don't remove them. So she was like, you can not do anything and we can do another over the skin ultrasound in the future and just see if it's changed at all or what it looks like. Or we can do the more invasive ultrasound to get a better idea of exactly how big it is. And I was like, okay, let's just do the invasive ultrasound. So it's crampy, it's uncomfortable, but it literally was so quick. It was not a big deal. So they did that second, more in-depth ultrasound, and it is just over the size where they would remove them. So now I have an appointment in February to have that removed. So it's another appointment. Like, I just did the colonoscopy, but it's another appointment now where I have to be put to sleep. And they have to go inside my uterus and remove this polyp and then send it away to test it to make sure it's not cancerous. So that is a little bit stressful. But again, polyps are super common. Like, they just took out the one during my colonoscopy and it was benign. So I'm hoping that this one is benign. And she did say like this polyp wouldn't have really had anything to do with your periods being heavy or the cramping. But at least we found it, and now we can, you know, figure out if it's benign or like, is there cancer cells? Like, I don't know. So hopefully it's benign, fingers crossed. And that will be coming up in February. So many fun appointments before I turn 40. Oh my God, being 40 is just a dream. It's been so nice. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to me rant about hormones and my journey, my experience. I will keep you all posted on all the goings-ons of my, you know, my appointments and my hormone journey and whatnot. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. And please rate, review, subscribe, all those fun things. Follow us on Instagram at The Mom Room. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys on Tuesday. Bye.